All right, let's take a look at my previews and predictions for week 7 here on NFL matchups. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the game over in London, the early morning game between the New England Patriots and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, both of these teams are pretty low overall. They're both 1-5. Jacksonville has a lot of pressure, unlike New England. I think New England, everyone understands, is they're in a rebuild mode. Obviously, they're rolling out a rookie quarterback who just got his first start last week against the Texans in a loss, but I think there's no expectations. Whereas I feel like Jacksonville and Doug Peterson, there is a lot of pressure. I said this early in the beginning of the season. Even if you go back and look at my AFC AFC South predictions, there's a lot of pressure on the team because they do have talent on this club, and right now they haven't been living up to it. So, but when you look at it, you break it down defensively. Patriots started off pretty well, but then they just kind of fluttered the last couple weeks, and so they're ranked 28th, where Jacksonville's defense isn't much better at 22nd. Offensively, the Patriots are really they're no good. And granted, a lot of it is because Jacoby Brissett has been the starting quarterback. We did not see him push the ball down the field. I expect Drake May to continue that trend, pushing the ball down the field, unlike Jacoby Brissett. So that I think that offensive ranking may move up slightly, maybe not much, because they still have a lot of problems on the offensive line. And New England's had a really tough schedule. They're ranked 5th on strength of schedule right now, whereas the Jacksonville Jaguars are ranked 12th. But both of them are 1-5. Both of them need a solid win here. But I think Jacksonville needs it more because Doug Peterson's coaching career depends on it. So I'm going to go with Jacksonville to win this game for a couple of reasons. Number one, they have more of a veteran quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. And number two, they've been in London or that area for the last 2 weeks now. So I think they'll probably be a little bit more comfortable, acclimated to the environment, whereas New England had to travel across and only get a couple days to acclimate themselves. So, but I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars to win this particular game. Now, we got a fun one here in Atlanta between the Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons. Listen, both teams are vying to maybe be in contention for winning their division. Now, more so the Falcons. I mean, they're sitting really good now at 4-2. Seattle just suffered a pretty tough loss against a division rival last week, Thursday, I believe it was, against the San Francisco 49ers. The Falcons are an interesting one. Like they've won 4 games. A lot of them have been really, really close games that could have gone either way. They did steal one from the Eagles early on in the season. But defensively, they're not that great defensively. They're ranked 24th right now, according to PFF, whereas Seattle's defense is a lot better. They're at least a top 10 according to the rankings there. Offensively, both teams are within the top 5 best offenses right now. Seattle likes to push the ball down the field. They'll throw it a little bit more with Geno Smith. Same thing with Atlanta, but the only thing Atlanta's got going for them, they got really 2 solid running backs in Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. And their wide receivers core is not bad either. You got led by Drake London. You got Ray McLeod, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts are starting to get in the flow of things. So I really like what they're doing there. Kirk Cousins is starting to get more and more comfortable. You see it every week. He's playing better and better. He's getting really more comfortable with this offense. So Seattle, to me, they've been pretenders for a while, and their strength of schedule is really helped them out in the beginning of the year. Now they're starting to face teams with a little bit better caliber, and you're noticing them starting to falter a little bit there. It doesn't mean they're a bad team, but they're not a team that I can really rely on. I'm going to go with the Falcons on this one to win at home, because this is a big matchup. I mean, honestly, these are 2 teams that are contending for the playoffs and maybe even for a division title. Atlanta's right there with Tampa Bay, so but I really like Atlanta's chances overall to win this game, even though their defense can be a little bit more improved. But I really like Atlanta in this particular matchup. Okay, we got the Bengals and the Browns. Big news Tuesday. Amari Cooper shipped out. He's no longer Cleveland Brown. The Browns come into this matchup at home, 1-5 start versus Cincinnati, who is 2-4. Now on paper, the Bengals to me are a better club right now. They got they're playing better at quarterback. Joe Burrow is doing literally everything he can. And, they kind of escaped New York there Sunday night, but they got the win. Defensively, the Bengals can be had. They are ranked 27th right now per PFF Pro Football Focus, and that's not good. Whereas Cleveland's defense is still relatively good. They're ranked top 6 in the league. So if they got anything going for them offensively, this is where they differ a big time. So it's funny is that the Bengals the Bengals defense is not great, but the Browns defense is good. But then you look at the Browns offense, it sucks. And then you got the Bengals offense, which is ranked number 1 right now per PFF. So that's good for them. And the crazy thing about it, the Browns have had a crappy schedule and are still 1-5. They've had games against teams that were winnable games, at least according to their strength of schedule right now, and they're ranked 27th. So they've had one of the easiest stretches so far, and they still can't get the job done. But honestly, at the end of the day, I like the Bengals in this matchup. They have a fighter's chance of making the playoffs. It's going to be tough. But if they got to just go on a run here, and it continues on with a win in Cleveland against the Browns. The Browns just need to pack it in. I don't think a lot of big changes. Well, one big change needs to be happen, and that's the quarterback, right? And they're going to have to figure out what's going to go on with that. But I like the Bengals in this particular matchup to win against Cleveland on the road. Let's see here. You know what? Let's go back. Let's go back over and look at the Titans and Bills. Bills, other big news for them. They traded for Amari Cooper, which is going to definitely help their offenses because it's going to give Josh Allen some more talent and weapons to throw to. It's not going to just be the Josh Allen show. And so right now, overall, they're one of the still top 5 teams overall from a power rankings perspective. Defense, they're kind of middle of the pack for the Buffalo Bills. Offensively, they're top 10 in most categories there. And then you look at the Tennessee Titans, they're just blah, right? Defense, 23rd. Offense, 32nd, dead last, and which not surprised because of look who's the quarterback there. Strength of schedule, Tennessee Titans also have had a pretty easy schedule thus far. The Bills, I guess you can kind of say maybe, but I mean they had the run in with the Baltimore Ravens early in the season, Miami, but they actually caught Miami. Well, that's the game that Tua got hurt. So on paper, that should have been a better matchup. But so far, they've been able to win the games they needed to win. A tough loss in Houston a couple weeks ago to the Texans. But I think with Amari Cooper, and I believe he's going to be good to go. I don't think there are any problems with him. I think he should be a quick start for the Buffalo Bills this Sunday against the Titans. But when you compare the quarterbacks, I mean, quarterback rating, Josh Allen's getting a 75.6, where you look at Will Levis is 44.9. I mean, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And you can't win in this league if you don't have a great quarterback. So for me, this is an easy one. I like the Buffalo Bills to win this game and win it rather quite comfortably, if I may say so myself. Okay. All right. Let's just jump back over. Let's look at the Green Bay Packers taking on the Houston Texans. This is going to be a fun matchup. Definitely a fun matchup. Both teams are evenly across the board, defense and offensively. 2 young quarterbacks. So this is going to be a fun watch. Now, still no Nico Collins for the Houston Texans. He's going to be out another couple weeks because they placed him on IR. But defensively, both teams are right there. One thing I will say about the Texans defense, and I'll say something about the Green Bay's defense, is that the Texans defense, they get after the quarterback. I mean, and that's going to be a thing, right? So how well can Green Bay match up against them? It'll get, particularly Will Anderson is going to be a big question mark. Offensively, CJ Stroud is still doing his thing. They're ranked 9th, at least top 10, even without Nico Collins. Slight dip, but not too much, right? And then you look at the Green Bay Packers, especially on defense. Let's start there. Their turnover rate is crazy. They have tons of takeaways led by their safety, Xavier McKinney. He's doing a fantastic job there. Defensively, other than that, pretty middle of the road, I would say. They're ranked 19th. Offensively, they're getting it going. They're spreading the ball around. If you have their receivers in fantasy, it's kind of like it's a revolving door. 1 week it's Christian Watson, then it's Romeo Dobbs, then it's Dontavius Wicks, then it's Tyler Kraft. It's like who knows who Jordan Love wants to go to that day, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. It depends on how you look at it, but this is definitely going to be an interesting matchup. Now, you can see the screen here. I'm going to go with the Texans. I think it's going to be a close one. It's going to come down to whoever has the ball last, and I think that the Titans will have just enough to win this game and get the win over the Green Bay Packers. So definitely one of those ones you want to circle for Sunday. I know I'll be sitting down locked in on that game. Okay, another game that maybe might not be circled for a lot of people. but I'll circle it because I kind of am a fan of the Colts, although, I don't know why. I really have an affinity for Joe Flacco and what he has been able to do. Now, you going into this game, both teams are not really all that great. The Colts defense has not been as good as I thought it was going to be. They're ranked 21st right now. Offensively, the same. They're second to last in offensive ranking per PFF. But Joe Flacco has done everything that he can to win a couple games for this team and keep them in the conversation. Now, I don't know if Anthony Richardson's going to be a go. Right now, he is listed. Actually, he's not showing up on any of the injury reports, so he may be a go. And if that's the case, I'm still going to go with the Colts anyways. You can see, just because if Skylar Thompson is the starter or even Tyler Huntley is the starter, it doesn't matter who is for the Dolphins. They're just pathetic at this point. Without Tua, they are lost. Defensively, they're not as good as I thought they were going to be going into this year as well. They're ranked 25th, and offensively, they're just ahead of the Colts at 30th right now. And they've played one of the easier schedules per PFF right now at the 31st hardest schedule. So whereas the Colts have played a tougher schedule, they're more battle tested, right? But this was a no-brainer for me. I guess no matter who the quarterback is, I'm going to go with the Colts, just because the Miami defense and offense have just been abysmal. And Mike McDaniel's Mike McDaniel, he just hasn't really adjusted anything. And I don't know if you could do anything, honestly, with the roster the way it's currently constructed. It's not much you can do, especially if you're missing your main piece, which is your quarterback that you just paid a lot of money to. So good luck to them. All right. Let's look at a big matchup, probably the biggest matchup of the weekend. You got the Detroit Lions 4-1 heading into Minnesota US Bank Stadium to take on the undefeated Minnesota Vikings. This is not only a big matchup for the NFC North, it's a big matchup just in the NFC and overall in the National Football League. Detroit coming off of a ass whooping they've handed to the Dallas Cowboys on the road this past Sunday, and the Minnesota Vikings had the week off, so they had some time to prepare a little bit more. When you break these teams down, you want to give the slight edge to Detroit. Defensively, they're one of the better defenses right now. They're ranked second, like per Pro Football Focus. Offensively, Jared Goff has been really consistent, really on point. They have two really great running backs in Jahmyr Gibbs, and I believe, what's the other guy's name? Is it Montgomery, if I'm not mistaken? I forgot his name at the top of my head, but playing really well. You look at Minnesota. Defense, listen, stat-wise, you look at them, you're like, well, they're ranked 20th right now, but I don't think that number genuinely reflects Brian Flores' scheme, the way he's been able to confuse quarterbacks and get after it. I think this is going to be a hell of a matchup. Offensively, Sam Darnold has been as consistent as you can be. My only problem with Minnesota recently is that they haven't been able to finish games. So I think for this particular one, it's nothing against Detroit. I think they're a fantastic team. I think they'll probably be in the talks for the NFC Championship game anyway. But for this one game, because they're at home, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings, and they had 1 week off. And I think the Aiden Hutchinson thing might be it may not be a huge problem, but you just don't replace a guy like that overnight. Now, I know they'll have this, next man up mentality, but I think there's something they're going to have to work out the kinks. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Minnesota in this particular game. All right, we're just moving right along here. Let's take a look at the Eagles and the Giants. We all know what the Eagles have been. Obviously, they barely squeaked by the Cleveland Browns. Their head coach has been a complete buffoon. And offensively, they're a little inconsistent. When they get it going, they look really well. A.J. Brown came back last week. Devontae Smith played. Saquon Barkley continues to need to get the ball a little bit more. Defensively, they're middle of the road. They're ranked 14th. When you look at the Giants, though, the Giants defensively are a pretty solid unit. Now, I know they had to place Kayvon Thibodeau on IR, but they still got Spider-Man, a.k.a. Brian Burns, and you still got the man, the man child, Dexter Lawrence in the middle there, both help bolstering that front seven. So, they lost this past weekend, but it was rather a close game. I think this team is ready to go. Malik Neighbors, I believe, should be a go. I haven't heard anything coming from them, so he's not listed on players' injuries right now. So I think he might be a go after coming off of that concussion. So he should be good to go. As far as the Eagles are concerned, they should win this game. But it's a divisional game. But I think the Giants at home, as long as they don't make crazy mistakes, I think they have a chance to win this game. So I picked them. And when you look at the grading between Jalen Hurts and Daniel Jones is been graded better than Jalen Hurts at this point. So if you're looking at two quarterbacks, and I get it. Daniel Jones is not a great quarterback. I understand that. But he's playing better right now than Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is continuing to throw the ball away a lot more. Turn the ball over. I'm going to go with the Giants at home to win in a close one, in a close divisional NFC East matchup, but I'm going to take the Giants on this one. All right, let's look at the Raiders and the Rams. Big news for the Raiders this week. Devontae Adams forced his way out of Las Vegas. He is now a Jet. We'll talk about that game here shortly. They head into LA again to play they played the Chargers early in the year, but now they head back to SoFi to play the Rams. Now the Rams, a lot of injury-plagued team. Even with that said, I feel like the Rams are a lot better suited to win this game. They've had the second hardest strength of schedule played so far. And I think that's kind of prepared them a lot better. Whereas the Raiders, the 22nd, and the Raiders are 2-4. And I know LA is 1-4. But in general, I mean, listen, Matthew Stafford is better than any quarterback that they're going to throw out there for Vegas. So, and I don't even care who he's throwing to. I like Matthew Stafford over Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, whoever the hell the Raiders decide to throw out. And this, to me, this was a no-brainer. And I think they're just going to be better coached anyway. And you guys, if you've watched me, you listen to my shows, not a big fan of AP as a head coach. So you look at overall the rankings, the Raiders are ranked 31st in defense efficiency and 28th in offense. So not really well, good at any point. The Rams fare a little bit better as far as offensive rankings are concerned at 19th. And that's considering no Cooper Kupp, no Puka Nacua. Their offensive line has been mixed matched damn near every week. And they still happen to be a better ranked offense than the Raiders. So give me the Rams in this one. And this was a no-brainer to me. And I think the Raiders are going to feel I know why they needed to trade Devontae Adams, because he quit. He quit on them. And they needed to get that out of there so that way they can clear the air and reset the deck, as they would say, and move on. But they don't have the talent. I think the Rams still have the better talent and the better coach team. All right, Panthers and Commanders. A battle. Well, it should have been a battle of two young quarterbacks, but it's not, because Bryce Young was benched. Jaden Daniels comes into this game with a 4-2 record. Close loss against Baltimore. They got some holes, obviously, but he showed a lot, man. Honestly, to battle with Lamar Jackson, to keep that offense, to keep that team in the game with their offense. Carolina is really not still a great team right now. They're almost bottom of defensive ranking. They're ranked 17th in offense, whereas the Washington Commanders are ranked 10th, and then their defense is 26th. So Carolina will get some matchups that favor them, right? Deontay Johnson and that secondary should be favorable in some cases there. Xavier Legette may have some opportunities. Chuba Hubbard been running the ball pretty well. But overall, I think the Commanders are the better team. I think they have the better horses in the end. They got the better quarterback. And no offense to Andy Dalton, he's doing all he can. He's a veteran, right? He doesn't have the same skill set as a Jaden Daniels. So, but I like Washington in this particular one. I think they're going to continue to roll and improve to 5-2 on this young season. So, shout out to them. All right. We got another big matchup here. We got the Chiefs 5-0 heading to Santa Clara to take on the San Francisco 49ers, who are injury plagued at running back position, right? Jordan Mason, questionable. We all know what's going on with Christian McCaffrey. He's still out on the IR. Chiefs, obviously, they've been missing Isaiah Pacheco, but no problem. Now, listen. This is a losable game for the Chiefs, right? San Francisco 49ers are still a formidable team. I know they've struggled a little bit, right? But they definitely have the pieces to beat Kansas City. Defensively, though, I mean, they're both even. Both defenses are really good. And I think that's what helps the Chiefs and even the 49ers to that extent, right? Offensively, the Chiefs are still ranked sixth overall. But I think a lot of it is just because they've been able to just find matchups. You know, Travis Kelce has been doing his thing. Juju Smith-Schuster stepped up in their last game. And then you look at the Niners side of things, Brock Purdy, the last time we saw them, they lost to the who was it? They lost to the well, no, I'm sorry. They won. They won. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm losing track of my weeks. So they beat Seattle on Thursday night, which in a pretty really good performance by Brock Purdy and George Kittle. They got it going there. As long as they can run the football, they will always have the ability to win games. So it's going to be a tight one, but I trust Patrick Mahomes more than probably anybody in the National Football League, right? So regardless of what's going around him with talent and all that other stuff, I think that he's just that dude. And people may complain and say, oh, well, they get the calls. And when you look at their rankings, Brock Purdy's played better football as an overall. But Patrick Mahomes just has that it factor. And I can't go against that, man. I just can't. So I'm going to take the Chiefs in the Super Bowl rematch to win on the road in Santa Clara against those Niners. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be close because we've seen that with a lot of the Chiefs games. They just don't blow out anybody because they don't have the talent to right now. But they find ways to win. All right, big matchup, Sunday Night Football. A lot of eyes going to be in this game for a couple of reasons. Number one, Davante Adams, will he play? Has his hamstring miraculously just healed because he was traded? Maybe the air on the plane over to New York helped heal his hamstring. That's one thing to look at. And then you can look at the Steelers, right? Talks about Mike Tomlin possibly starting Russell Wilson or splitting time with Justin Fields, which I think is a total disaster. But the Jets defense, Jets overall, coming off of a tough loss. Again, they probably should have won if it wasn't for their kicker and all the penalties that they had, just self-inflicted penalties that killed drives for them or took points off the board, right? You would think that Davante Adams can maybe remedy that. Aaron Rodgers probably will play a lot better maybe now because he has a familiar target to throw to. And you look at the Steelers side, like offensively, I know they played the Raiders and I get it, right? They won the game, but I don't know if what they do is sustainable enough. And if the Jets can score at a higher clip, then the advantage goes to the Steelers. But Steelers defense is still elite. They still got TJ Watt. The Jets still cannot protect Aaron Rodgers. He got smacked a couple times on Monday night. So I like the Steelers in this one. I think in the end, TJ Watt's going to come up with some big play, strip sack, fumble, whatever the case may be. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to find a way somehow to muster a couple points. One thing that Justin Fields does have going for him is his escapability. If a play isn't there, if it breaks down, he can take off and run. Whereas if you kind of go with Russell Wilson, you probably you lose a lot of that. He's a better thrower, but you probably lose that ability when plays break down, which has happened a lot for the Steelers. And that's probably why they're not ranked very high offensively. But my gut telling me to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the Steelers in this one. All right, we got two games on Monday Night Football. We'll start with the big matchup. This is also another big matchup between the Ravens and the Buccaneers. I'm really excited to watch this one. You got Baker Mayfield, who's playing really, really good football right now. And then you got Lamar Jackson, who's also playing really good football as well. Both teams defensively almost, right after another, playing really well. Offensively, the Ravens have figured out what they want to do. They want to take it back old school and run the football, and they have the tools to do so, especially with Derrick Henry. And then you got Lamar Jackson as a change of pace, and it's working well for them at this point. Now, one thing I will say about the Ravens defense, it's not as good as it traditionally has been. And not to say that it's fallen off the rails altogether, but they haven't been as dominant as we kind of always led to believe with them, that their defense is so dominant. But this year, teams have been able to take advantage of them a little bit. And then you got the Buccaneers, who also too, right, can be taken advantage of a little bit. Baker Mayfield does have a tendency sometimes to give you one, whether it's an interception, fumble, whatever the case may be. But I like the Ravens in this one. I think they're going to come in, they're going to establish the run, and with Derrick Henry, and they're going to get after it. I think they're going to get out. But I think this has the potential of being a high-scoring game, which the way the Ravens run the football, how could it be? I think Lamar Jackson's going to let it fly a little bit more. I think he's going to let the air out of the ball, and he's going to do his thing. But I like the Ravens in this matchup against Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football. All right, and the final matchup, you got the LA Chargers on the road heading to the desert to take on the Arizona Cardinals in this one. The Arizona Cardinals, one of those exciting teams only because Kyler Murray just kind of runs around doing his thing. I believe they're coming off a bye. But when we lost all them, they beat the Niners on the road, come from behind win against the Niners. So I think, that kind of helped bolster their spirits a little bit. Kyler Murray right now has the higher ranking as far as percentage wise. This is because I think they utilize him more. I think that's going to change with Justin Herbert a little bit more. I think they realize that they're going to have to throw the football. They can't just sit back and run. They just can't sit back and run. Gus Edwards is on the IR, who's been a really key contributor for the LA Chargers. But something about Arizona on a Monday night and Kyler Murray. Now I know they have their own injuries with Marvin Harrison Jr. He may miss some time this week. But I like Arizona in this spot. I think it's going to be a good game. It may even be a shootout, but I do like the Cardinals to win this game. Just the simple fact of the quarterback play. I think Kyler Murray is in a better situation right now than Justin Herbert is. But I can definitely see these teams going back and forth, trading shots. Because if you look at their rankings, Chargers do have the better defense overall. But offensively, the Cardinals, the Kyler Murray is just a different kind of dude, right? So I think I give them the slight edge there. So, all right, there you have it. Those are my Week 7 previews and predictions for the week, man. Make sure you guys review it, watch the tape again. Let me know what you guys think.